Today on the Solar Podcast, sustainability in the solar industry. I'm Tim Montague, your host. Welcome to the Solar Podcast. Today, my guest is Tyler Kanczuzewski, the VP of Sustainability for Inovateus Solar, based in South Bend, Indiana. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Excited to do a second show with Inovateus. We had TJ, your brother, on just about a month ago. So thanks for coming on. We're going to focus on uh, a variety of things related to sustainability. You have a whole slew of internal sustainability initiatives that we're going to run down. We're going to talk about how you approach sustainability in solar projects. You've got some best practices there to share with the industry. But before we do all that, please give our listeners some background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Well, I was born and raised in South Bend, Indiana, and that is where Inovateus Solar is based. We're about 10 minutes from the University of Notre Dame. So that tends to be an attraction when we invite our customers in the town, for sure. So hopefully you're a Notre Dame fan, Tim.
Go Illini.
Yeah. So I graduated from Holy Cross College in 2012, and that's when I started working at Inovateus Solar. So I've been with Inovateus for about 10 years now. And in 2016, I decided to go back to school to do an MBA with a sustainability emphasis. And I did that at Grand Valley State in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's a school that is pretty forward thinking in terms of sustainability, and doing green buildings and things of that nature. I graduated in 2019 from Grand Valley State, and then when I started working, I was working through that school experience at Inovateus, but when I was officially done with school, I really wanted to put what I learned in sustainability into the companies. So TJ and I sat down to talk about, what can Inovateus Solar do to be more sustainable and help educate the industry. And that's where we started sustainability really with the company and having a focus role for me in sustainability. And then from there, we started a stewardship team, our green team, where we have people focused from all parts of our company. And we just kind of got some good traction and fast forward to now, we have some pretty cool sustainability initiatives that we're launching.
Yeah, definitely. Inovateus stands out because you have formalized uh, a set of best practices that the company has taken on. So let's dive into that, and then we'll also get into some project specifics for our EPCs and installers out there who can learn from that. So what is when you well, first of all, I guess everybody wants to be more sustainable with their company's practices, but there's always trade-offs between the costs and the benefits, right? And so I'm just curious, when you were checking through all those things, you're reducing your waste, you're reducing your energy consumption, you're greening your energy consumption, hopefully locally with distributed generation. Did you approach that with some kind of a ranking system, or how did you score all the things that you might do?
Yeah, some of the things we looked at first were the construction waste, because you do spend a significant amount of money on getting dumpsters to a site and hauling waste to a landfill and having a company do that. So that was high on the list. And then vegetation management for the sites, that was another one high on the list, because you already have to plant a grass, and to close out a project to get final completion, you got to get roughly 70% vegetation growing. So we wanted to look at vegetation because that's already a thing we price into the projects, to see what we could do better there. And then from there, we considered system design, like a big one, and selection of materials, in our procurement. And then, really caring, or going extra mile for our customer. We also put on the list end of life planning and decommissioning, like what we can do or help our customer with in the future, because solar panels have a lifetime. So that was kind of the ranking. So I'd say construction waste and the vegetation management were definitely priority.
Yeah. But so you're referring to your work on solar projects. There's also you, Innovatus, the solar developer and EPC, with your internal practices. And I kind of assume that you have, I mean, I glanced at the press release when you did your 2019 report. I know you're working on your 2020 report, but there's some things that you've done internally as well. Why don't you walk us through those?
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, when we started thinking sustainability, we definitely started focusing on the projects first, because that's where, we have a bigger footprint is out at the projects. But we realized culturally we needed to focus internally, with the company, within our buildings, with our people. So what's great is we actually installed solar on our own building in the last couple of years. So that was a big milestone. And we even got some crap from people like, hey, you're a solar company, you don't have solar on your building yet. It's because we have an east-west pitch roof. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
not optimal, obviously. So we decided, hey, let's just do it anyways. Let's do an east-west array. And it actually looks pretty cool. And we're going to do a phase 2 and probably add more solar to that at some point. So having solar on our building, that's a big one. We did LED lights, and that was really a sustainability initiative once we really started growing our in-house sustainability. In 2019, we decided LED was more energy efficient for our building, and like less than a 2-year payback on the LED lights, which I thought was pretty impressive. So energy efficiency was a focus to optimize our energy at our building, and then talk to the employees about that, like, ways that we're reducing our energy bill here, and then things that they can take to their home and consider at their home.
I'm glad you mentioned employee engagement, because that's something that's often overlooked. And I think that people naively think that you're going to maximize your sustainability initiatives without really engaging the workforce. And that's across the board, right? Both in the office and in the field. Everybody needs to be informed and knowledgeable and thinking constantly about, okay, am I following a best practice here, or is there some better way? And um,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly. And we figured, we can make more of an impact if people are taking it to their homes and practicing these sustainability initiatives with their family. And we actually launched a sustainability challenge at the start of this year, to do just that, to encourage people to look at doing solar for their home, doing lights, just being smart with like your heating and air conditioning, and doing like more sustainability in terms of meal prep, and or buying more like eco-friendly products. I think we came up with like 83 or 85 different things you could do to be more sustainable, and it's a point system. So if anything you do, you just tally up the points, and at the end of the year, the winner, it gets it's basically a value of like $6,000. So it's a pretty good prize. And so we definitely wanted to encourage people to to do everything they can throughout the year. Like a bike to work is one where you get like 5 points for every day you bike to work. And actually quite a few of our people live within 15 minutes of our office. So biking to work, isn't too hard. So that's a fun thing we're doing this year culturally, is doing the sustainability challenge. We also just implemented a recycling room to our office building, and trying to increase our recycling and our zero waste practices here at our office. That's one that I'm pretty excited about. And then we travel a lot. We have to travel to our job sites. We have a sales team or a business development team that are traveling to meet with customers. So we're definitely looking at travel, ultra low carbon travel options, or working with organizations, either rental car organizations or airline companies that are practicing more carbon offsetting and more like fuel efficient travel.
You mean you don't have a fleet of Teslas yet, Tyler? Come on.
TJ has a Tesla, so I need to talk with TJ about getting a couple more of those, and then we would.
Yeah, we installed EV chargers at our office, and that's nice. I'm now an EV owner. It's, until you're an EV owner, it's very easy to be kind of cavalier about the pros and cons, but it's working out so far. I did my longest trip just recently over to Ohio, and it does take a little longer because I had to stop and supercharge twice going there and back. So it slowed me down a little bit, but then you get a little more time to catch up on email while you're en route, and you don't have that barrage when you get back to the office. So it works out.
Definitely. Yeah, we have a 2-port charger here at Inovateus, and my brother and sister both have EVs, so they use them quite a bit. But we have more and more people getting hybrids or EVs. So we're talking about either doing our own carport or just adding some charging stations. And I put a deposit on a Rivian. Actually, I'm thinking about the Rivian. It's a refundable deposit, but thinking about getting one of those. They come out in the next year. That they have the different like trucks and SUVs. Pretty cool company. So I'm excited to get an EV myself.
Made in Illinois, I'll note. I've been following Rivian very closely. I've got a deposit on a Cybertruck myself, but yeah, I'm chomping at the bit to get an EV pickup truck.
They're going to make a lot of them in Illinois.
Yeah, the Rivian factory is in Bloomington Normal.
Okay.
They're based in Detroit, and they have an office in San Francisco, but their factory is in Illinois. They took an old Mitsubishi plant and have been retrofitting that. So
Very cool.
yep. So you mentioned waste reduction, uh, energy conservation, getting distributed generation or green energy on your rooftop. Those are all good things. Um, what else when you guys do these sustainability reports? What else are you addressing? And we can I don't want to distract too much from the project aspects, because as you mentioned, that is probably your biggest footprint, is your construction work. But how else are you thinking about sustainability as a solar installer?
Yeah, I mean, doing a carbon assessment is something that we're doing this year. Doing like official carbon footprint inventory. You have your different stages. So we're actively working on that, and we're taking everything into account from operations, travel, construction, and then supply chain. Obviously the materials that we're using on our projects, that they do have a footprint, and we can be more sustainable in our procurement of equipment, since we're not the manufacturer. So I think those are really the main areas, operations, um, travel, construction, and supply chain. So we're doing more of an accurate analysis and carbon footprint study this year because we have a big goal to be carbon neutral. And how are we going to do that? We're going to have to be creative to figure out ways to offset that carbon footprint because the projects that we're building, technically we're offsetting carbon for our customer. We don't own all of these projects, so we're not going to be able to account for all of the positive environmental offsets with the solar that we're building.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the supply chain. We all, everybody in the solar industry needs to be more cognizant of the carbon footprint of the products going into these solar projects. I had Michael Parr on from the Ultra Low Carbon Solar Alliance recently, and this is a group of mostly manufacturers like Q Cells, like First Solar, like Meyerberger from Switzerland. And the carbon footprint of just talking about solar panels, there's a huge spectrum, and a high carbon or dirty electricity, solar panel has twice the carbon footprint of a low carbon footprint solar panel, and the pricing is right there. So you really just need to know who are the manufacturers that are producing lower carbon footprint, and eventually they're going to come out with an eco label for those, so it'll make it easier for us,
Yeah,
who are sourcing the materials.
that's
I
going to be
haven't heard
great.
of this as a thing in the inverters or in the wire, but are there other aspects of a solar project? And I want to shine a light on your zero waste practices and your pollinator friendly practices, because those are two areas that really do make Innovatus stand out. That you're really putting a stake in the ground, saying we're gonna make an ecologically friendly solar project for our customers. And again, as I mentioned in the intro, there is a trade-off. There is a cost to these practices. So I'm curious, how how well is this being received by your customers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because sometimes people are concerned, oh, you want to do these things and be more sustainable and eco-friendly, but they're going to cost more. And in some cases that's true, but what we're finding out so far, at least, that we're not spending any additional money on some of these initiatives, like practicing zero waste initiative or pollinator habitat. um, I think the biggest difference as we're doing, diving more into these things, are the added labor. So getting more data on the true increase in labor. Um, so it's a learning curve. As we're collecting all this information, but so far we haven't been spending more money on launching these sustainability initiatives, and if anything, we've been saving money because you typically price jobs based on okay, this is how much it is to have a dumpster, and this is how much hauling rates are in this region, or this is how much it is to plant like Department of Transportation a grass mix. So we had a lot of these companies, and including Inovateus, we have these numbers we put into our pricing. Well, we're kind of throwing that all away and putting these sustainability initiatives in. So we're learning how to price them as we go. But so far, we haven't spent any more money. And on several jobs, like University of Illinois, definitely like saved quite a bit of money. And You had Muhammad Atala on from the University of Illinois, and Pedro de la Barra from Sol Systems, and that's who we worked with at the U of I project. When we talked to them about, hey, we want to do zero waste construction, like they just jumped all over it. Like Sol Systems was super excited about it. And the University of Illinois, as you heard from Muhammad, they have a carbon neutral goal. and they're increasing their recycling initiatives. So having partners like jump all over it and be supportive of it, it really helped to make that project happen. And we actually ended up recycling over 90,000 pounds of shipping material at the one site there at the University of Illinois.
Yeah, that's a nice statistic. Yeah, you're getting all these pallets of solar modules and pallets of pipe and wire and the racking, and there is a significant amount of shipping materials and pallets that, I mean, what percentage of the construction waste, quote unquote, can be recycled?
Yeah, I'd say somewhere around 80 to 90%, depending on the exact suppliers you use and the shipping materials they use. Um, the University of Illinois project, I keep going back to because um, we achieved pretty much zero waste. Um, the the wood pallets and the cardboard made up about over 70,000 pounds, and the total waste of the project was 90,000 pounds. So I think most projects, people are going to have to deal with the wood pallets and the cardboard first, because that makes up most of your weight. And the good thing is we have pretty good infrastructure in place to recycle pallets and cardboard across the U.S. But I have been having issues with the wood pallets for the solar panels. A lot of pallet recyclers in the U.S. are used to dealing with like your typical, 48 by 48 or like 36 by 36, like more of a square pallet. Well, the solar panel pallets are longer,
Hmm.
and a lot of recyclers, they don't know what to do with those longer pallets essentially, or they don't have the equipment to fix them up or refurbish them. So we've been having to get creative to find people that are interested in taking the panel pallets. Um,
Yeah, I mean, eventually we'll have enough panel factories here in the U.S., hopefully, that the panel manufacturers can take them back themselves. Q Cells is a good case in point. They have a big factory, I think, in Georgia, and it's one of the largest solar panel manufacturing facilities in the U.S.
yeah, and one real quick thing is that there's a company called PV Pallet, and they're based out of St. Louis right now, and they're working on a reusable pallet that's made of HDPE recycled plastic,
Cool.
and you can recycle it over and over. It'll be interesting to see if they take off. A great group of people, and I'm on their like advisory board right now, trying to support their initiative of a reusable pallet, and they're trying to work with First Solar, Hanwha out of Georgia, and I think another company that they could work with is Cascade Eco Minerals, or other panel recyclers. Cascade's one of the bigger panel recyclers right now, and I think getting broken panels from like construction, or if there was storm damage, getting broken panels from a site to the recycler can be a logistical hurdle. So I think it could make sense for a reusable pallet to break through some of those logistical hurdles.
Yeah, I like the idea of a reusable pallet for sure. You mentioned repurposing solar modules or recycling solar modules, and I know that you guys are giving a webinar tomorrow, and we'll put the link to that recording in the show notes because that's going to post before this goes live. But what are your thoughts about solar panel recycling? This is a big topic as the industry gains steam. There's already companies dedicated to repowering solar arrays in California, our most mature solar market, right? And as the industry ages across the country, this is going to be a real thing. And we just want to uh, we want to have you know, some best practices that are achievable so that these electronics don't end up in landfills.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, and I know SIA's working actively to try to get more laws in place so that we're not sending panels to the landfill. SIA has the PV, like it's the PV end of life cycle group, and Innovatus, we participate in that group at times, but there's a lot of valuable material, obviously, in solar panels, and how you recover all of that is definitely something we're chewing on. The great thing is there's companies like Cascade Eco Minerals, there's Dynamic, First Solar has their own recycling facility. We're learning from the current panel recyclers right now that they already have infrastructure in place to recycle a lot of the equipment that's been installed, and they believe they can handle a lot of the equipment that will be decommissioned in the next 10 to 15 years, when we're expecting to see a big flood of mostly solar modules that need to be recycled or refurbished. What we're learning is that the solar panel is made up of over 75% glass, so we need to be good or have good glass recyclability or infrastructure to get all of the glass and either put that glass back into panel manufacturing or downstream to other industries. So learning a little bit more about that, because it seems that the industry tends to focus more on the precious metals in the solar panels, and kind of just miss the fact that, hey, these are 75%, 80% glass. So I think we're starting to look at it a little bit differently, like, hey, wow, 80% glass, and we have a great glass recycling infrastructure in the United States right now. Like, that's a good thing. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a head scratcher in terms of logistics, and that's where I brought up the PV pallet, like having reusable pallets to be able to send those to a site to be able to collect a lot of the material to get it to a recycler. I think that's where the industry needs to work and plan more in terms of the logistics of making it happen, because like right now, a lot of the recyclers, they want us to palletize any broken panels if we're going to send them to them. So that can be a little bit of an issue. It's like getting pallets, getting shipping material, and packing them up on site to get them on a truck to the recycler. And obviously there's a footprint. Now you need shipping material, you need a truck to haul them somewhere from point A to point B. So I'm definitely working on more of the logistical side of things to figure out, what's the most economical way to do it and the least environmental footprint to recycle these panels.
What exactly is Cascade Eco Minerals doing with solar panels anyway?
Yeah, Cascade is working with Delubic Glass, and they're a massive glass recycler. And just learning actually yesterday that some of the glass goes into some different technologies. One technology is, the white paint that's sprayed on our roads. I guess glass beads go into that paint, and that's what gives it that reflective look when you're driving down the road. So that was one example of something downstream. Yeah, I think they're also working with panel manufacturers in the US too, to provide glass back into solar panels. And I was really excited to hear that. And then there's a couple other industries that they're working with and getting creative on.
Are they doing anything with the metals, the aluminum framing, the copper bus bars, any of that stuff?
Yeah, so they are separating everything, and I think that's huge to be able to separate the entire module and have a stream for each material. And I believe in terms of the metals, they're working with metal scrapping companies in the U.S. I haven't heard if they were trying to work with panel manufacturers on the metals as well, but yeah, I mean, it seems like we have a pretty good metal recycling industry in the US, so they're tapping into that, which is good.
Cool. We haven't talked about pollinator friendly a whole lot, and maybe we can shine a light on that in relation to a couple of projects. You mentioned the U of I. This is the U of I Solar Farm 2, which is a 50-acre, 12 megawatt solar farm here in Champaign-Urbana. And then you also are doing a big project or a series of projects, I'm not sure which, in Logansport, Indiana, with the municipal utility there. But talk a little bit about pollinator friendly and what are the pros, and if there are any, what are the cons?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Logansport project in Indiana, you're right. It is two sites, and it's about 20 megawatts and close to 80 acres. So in planning for that project, we actually got introduced to Fresh Energy and Rob Davis, and he started asking us, hey, what are your guys' plans for the vegetation management, and have you guys been looking at pollinator habitat? And we were starting to learn about it over the years. We've been learning more and more about it, and this is about 2019, early 2019, when we started talking with Rob, and he introduced us to the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund, because they actually provide seed mix to companies that are newer to pollinator habitat. And it's a full grant. Basically, you can get approved for 100% free seed, and they have their own like seed design. So we started discussing our project with the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund, applied for the seed mix, and actually got accepted. So we got a free pollinator mix for the 80 acres for the 20 megawatt project, which is a huge cost. I mean, if we had to, I think we had in our budget, we were going to do like a regular grass mix, like a DOT mix, and you have to buy the seed, and then you have to prep the site and then plant it, and then obviously like there's maintenance and mowing and chemicals that go in. I think it was like $200,000 in the budget for that traditional grass mix. Well, going with the pollinator mix, starting with free seed, that we really saved a lot there. And then the prep and planting, it's a little bit more labor intensive than like the traditional grass mixes that a lot of solar farms are using. But where you get the most bang for the buck is long term, because you don't have to mow it as much, and you don't have to spray as much chemical. So you actually get more return on investment by doing pollinator habitat, we figured out. So taking out like the environmental aspect of it, we learned, hey, if you do pollinator mix over the lifetime of a project, or let's just say 7 years, because a lot of people own a project for 7 years, you actually save money by doing pollinator mix versus traditional grass mix. Or some companies, we know still put aggregate down or gravel, and that costs more than a regular grass mix. But
Yeah, I wanna stop and highlight this for our listeners.
Yeah.
We've learned this as well, Tyler, here in Illinois with the community solar projects that we're building. If you seed these projects with pollinator mix, you're going to use less seed. So your seed costs are lower than if you're just doing turf grass. And then you have this whole stack of environmental benefits. You're going to have reduced runoff because you've got deeper rooted plants. Um, these are many perennial species. Um, you're going to have much more habitat for, like you said, bees, butterflies, birds, and other wildlife. There's an aesthetic benefit. It's going to look better, right, than just
Yeah,
mowed
absolutely.
turf grass. You're going to mow it less. You can use sheep. I did an episode with Tom Karras from Minnesota Native Landscapes on agrivoltaics and running sheep on solar farms. That's a thing. That's a growing industry. So uh, people get it in their heads that, oh, pollinator friendly, that's going to be too expensive. We don't want to go there. The lifetime cost of ownership are lower with pollinator friendly, and the environmental benefits are way greater. So
Yeah.
it's a win-win.
Yeah. And I think the carbon sequestration is a really cool study that they're showing, because the roots grow so much deeper in these perennial plants and these habitat plants. I mean, they store so much more carbon. So that's a great thing. So now you can look at your solar farm as like a carbon sink.
Absolutely. And thank you for also mentioning Rob Davis. He's also been on the show here with Fresh Energy. Rob is now a national thought leader on this topic. So if anybody doesn't know about Rob Davis, just Google him and you'll find he's given many talks, including TED Talks, and they're just a wonderful resource. And then he's got involved with many businesses that are, you know, like making honey on solar farms or adjacent to solar farms, and then putting that honey in products like beer or other skincare products or other edible products. It goes in a bunch of different things. So,
Yeah, I've actually gotten a beer from Rob. That's solar grown honey that was in the beer.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's pretty
solar
good.
honey. Check it out. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, what else should our listeners know about Innovatus and sustainable solar projects that we haven't touched on so far?
Yeah, I think the big thing is the sustainability journey. That as our technology is getting so much better. Like not long ago we had 250-watt panels and we were doing them like on a fixed ground mount. And now, you talk with a lot of folks and we're doing bifacials and trackers. And we're just optimizing the energy and we're producing more power with less footprint of land. Um, and I think that technology is going to keep changing and keep evolving. So I think just you know jumping on this journey and being flexible with the changes and growing with it, growing with the technology, and then outside of the technology, just thinking of things you can be more of a ways you can be more of a steward, like reducing your waste, doing the pollinator habitat. So now you're supporting some wildlife habitat for nature, and just getting creative to always try to do better, be more sustainable, be more steward like, because you're not only a better steward for the earth in that way, but it's just the right thing to do, and you're saving money, like as we've talked about today. I mean, a lot of these things that we're doing, it's not it's not rocket science. It's not costing us millions of dollars. It's just things that we're spending a little bit more extra time on, to be patient with ourselves and our partners, to say, hey, can we do zero waste here? Hey, is this the right design for this footprint? That can we optimize better, like, hey, what can we do pollinator habitat here, things of that nature. And then what are we going to do when the equipment reaches its end life? Like, do we have a plan for our customers that we can like deliver to them to give them comfort that when this equipment starts failing, that there's a plan in place to manage all this equipment. So I think it's just continuing to really think about doing things better, and just being flexible and evolving, because things are always changing. We're always learning more. And we're just really just trying to educate the industry and be educated by the thought leaders out there, and just promote sustainable solar. And that's really what we try to embody right now. And our mission is building a brilliant tomorrow. So it's why we exist. We're trying to do the right thing. Yeah, obviously it's a business, and we need to make money, but we really just love doing solar for people, because it's free power that the sun's providing every day. We all love the outdoors. We all want to take care of the outdoors. So it's a good industry to be in. Like you said earlier, like it's solar, it's already sustainable. It's already renewable energy. But what are the things we're doing to make it more sustainable, so that it really is something that we can do for a long time? Make solar that dominant energy choice.
You've mentioned the carbon footprint, and I want to talk a little bit about this in the final minutes of our interview. And maybe this relates to the U of I project. It's not enough that the energy from these facilities is green energy. It's a good thing, and we're greening the grid, and the energy transition is now happening, and that's wonderful and necessary. But we truly need to be thinking about, as you've indicated, neutralizing our carbon footprint, both our companies and our projects. And so what has the University of Illinois, for example, learned about the impact of Solar Farm 2 on the university? Obviously, there's the direct, we're getting a solar farm. But let's talk a little more about that. How does solar and the best practices that Inovateus is bringing impact your customers?
So at University of Illinois, I'd say the big one is the zero waste practices. We recycled 90,000 or over 90,000 pounds of waste or potential waste. And we were able to do that because the university really helped support it and provide some of their infrastructure to make it happen. But 90,000 pounds, the students actually did a study on this, and they came up with 116 tons of carbon, avoided emissions in carbon, because of that waste that was recycled. So that was one eye opener. It's like, wow, if a lot of that had been thrown out or sent to the landfill, there is some significant emissions there. The supply chain, the materials selected for the Solar Farm 2.0, the solar modules and the racking equipment took up most of the carbon footprint. But there actually is a substantial footprint in making the materials and then shipping them to the site. So that was another eye opener. Like, hey, there is a footprint here. We are a construction company, and it's not free, to the environment. There is negative emissions in that. But the generation and the solar equipment and then the pollinator habitat combined, creating that carbon sink. I think it was like year 6 or 7 where all those emissions were offset And then obviously you have another 20 years plus of positive emissions. So the lifetime of the array was very much so in the positive of emissions, more of a carbon sink. But that first, up to 7 years, we were surprised by the emissions that a project does create. So I think you said it right. Like how do we neutralize? How do we neutralize those carbon emissions? What are ways we can be creative to do more net zero or less impactful in terms of the environment?
Yeah, I think we truly will see a day in the next 5 years when we're talking about net zero solar projects. I recently had Alliant Energy on the show. Their product uses a third less steel, for example, because they use a concrete foundation. So there's lots of ways that we can innovate and develop a lighter carbon footprint project. Well, how can our listeners reach you, Tyler?
Yeah. Well, you can go to our website, innovatus.com. We have all the social media channels. I think everyone but like Snapchat and some of the other new ones, but we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you go to our website, we post a lot of our webinars. We have a media tab, and we do have, like you said, we have a webinar tomorrow. When the listeners log on to hear us today, it'll already have happened. But our media tab has a lot of our educational blogs, our press releases, and some of our webinars that we do, and podcasts. I think we have a link to our podcast on there too. And we have a YouTube channel as well. If you go to Inovateus Solar, you can see some of our videos. We'll probably, once this podcast goes live, we'll post it we'll share it on our YouTube channel. So we try to do that as well. But I try to make it to a lot of the solar events. So you can definitely see me at any of the upcoming events. Hopefully we'll be able to make it in person this year. We're planning to be at SIA's big show in New Orleans. I actually got accepted to do one of the panel discussions on that's related to sustainability. So planning to be down in New Orleans. So yeah, hopefully we get back to normal this year and can do more face-to-face visits.
Yep, looking forward to a face-to-face conference in New Orleans this fall, post-COVID. So that'll be refreshing. I want to make a few announcements before we say goodbye to Tyler. We are bringing you 2 of these interviews every week here at the Solar Podcast. I mentioned Alliant Energy. Mark Kingsley came on the show recently. We are bringing you all kinds of content, though, about cybersecurity and communications, about the EV opportunity with Erica Myers, and the energy transition with Rewiring America and Sam Kalish. So all kinds of great content, including decarbonizing solar with Michael Parr, as I mentioned earlier in the show, of the Ultra Low Carbon Solar Alliance. That is going to be a growing trend. So check us out at cesnrg.com/podcast. I'm Tim Montague, your host. I want to thank Tyler Kanczuzewski for coming on the show today with Inovateus Solar and Sustainable Solar. Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks, Tim. It was a pleasure.